Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful. World's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you guys buy it. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everyone. I'm trying to find the button here to open up my chart, my correct chart, but it's like, where is it? It's been closed? Oh, there it is. There it is. And also, this is just, it's a typical Monday, right? Can't get my light to turn. There we go. All right, guys. Well, we've got an interesting setup for ourselves here this morning on a Monday, though, because if we come over here to the treasuries, charts, 10-year, initial move down here. I mean, we're a little bit higher than we were for most of the day on Friday. But the initial move here in the treasuries down. S&P 500, not a huge move off of last week. So we had like this crazy sell-off, and then the last 5 minutes, whoop, huge bid, huge panic bid, closed, options expiration out of the way. So hey, maybe we really do have a good opportunity here to have a recovery or a bear market rally, rather. There's oil pushing up here this morning. Natural gas down. That's good. Gold and silver have made some pretty good recoveries and are kind of coming back to, well, I don't know. This area might be a bad spot because if we've got like some moving averages here. So like if this is just like a bear market rally, maybe they may be starting to think about selling it again. But it's probably going to be driven more by what's happening with the dollar. If the dollar chills out, then maybe gold and silver can recover. And then we got Kappa moving up. Bitcoin doesn't look too shabby here. I mean, they had that same kind of sell-off that the ES did, but then magically recovered it. And then you got the dollar down big this morning. Christine Lagarde saying that they're going to get out of negative interest rates soon and yada, yada, yada. And so I think that's why they're moving. Okay, so here they moved all the way down to 119.22, and they're coming back up here. So we could go both ways here. I don't know. If the S&P 500 decides to recover here, do we see the treasuries sell off? That move down makes me a little bit more concerned about that scenario. The issue that we've been having lately is that they are kind of following more the S&P 500 today. Let's come over here. I don't recall what we've got for news going on this week. I should make sure that I got my news squawk turned on there. Don't have anything today, but for this week, let me come over here and check. So tomorrow we got some flash manufacturing PMIs. Powell speaks at 10:30. An Indian Enterprise Development and Economics Summit. So I don't know if that's a huge deal. Core durable goods Thursday. Preliminary GDP quarter over quarter. Is this the second quarter? Oh, no. This is going to be the other one. So now we get preliminary. If that preliminary GDP is negative, that's going to be, I mean, I don't know if the market react that much, but if it's still negative, then people are definitely going to be talking. Maybe we'll get a recession. Okay, so now all that out of the way, back up to the open. So I think that I am going to give it a little bit more time here because I am not entirely sure which way it's going to go. Don't have anything to suggest to me. There's a couple of things going on, But probably the biggest one is going to be which way equities decide to go here. And so I think it might be best to kind of chill here for a bit. But there's a pretty good down move on the open and it recovered. So I'm a little bit suspicious. Okay, what we got going on here in chat? Okay. Oh yeah, we got that. Okay, cool. Okay. And now to the Twitters. Need to know the stock market is vulnerable to good news and a 10 to 12% rally, says this strategist. Okay. The question for me is why haven't we had more of a bounce of what has been a relentless period of 7 to 8 week declines? I think it's because we continue to get bad news, so we need to get these worries out of the way before we can establish a good bottom. No, that's Mohammed El Ran speaking. I think that the reason that we have such relentless downtrends is because of options gamma. Personally. I really think that options are exaggerating certain moves. Elon Musk is tweeting about the Elden Ring, experienced in its entirety, is the most beautiful art I have ever seen. Okay. I'm surprised that he has time to play that. As busy as he has been. Yes, I know deleting tweets does not really delete them, but that is not why I delete them, says Mark Burry. He's of course predicting doom, but has Michael Burry ever been anything other than doom and gloom? I don't know, guys. Okay, see them there at the top. I was kind of thinking maybe I was preferring the long side, but I think I still got to be careful about that because the S&P 500 is really going to be the leader here. Well, what's moving the most today? RTY up 1% overnight. Oh, the 10-year's moved 1.5%. Isn't the net change in the 10-year here? Really? I don't know how I feel about that. Like, this is a strong uptrend. The larger downtrend kind of feels like down for the day, but it's really unclear here. At the very least, the trend traders are going to be wishy-washy here, right? Goldman's financial conditions index for Russia is now tighter than immediately after sanctions were imposed. Financial conditions are super tight and will lead to deep recession, which drives our near 30% year-over-year GDP fall by the end of 2022. Ruble recovery is an illusion. Well, yeah, and you notice that on some of this move up in the 10-year, no volume traded. Like, it was hardly any volume at all to bring it back up. Just a few thousand lots pushed and gross. Nassim Nicholas, Mr. Taleb was tweeting about a place where they serve squid ink. I'm like, I don't think squid ink looks too appetizing. You're looking at ZB and it had 3K? You're correct. Well, but it was like 2.5K down and like 2K back. What we may be getting here is like some spread activity, but it's kind of, since I wasn't watching it as it happened per se, it's hard for me to tell which way it's going to go. Which, where the volume was and stuff. Cumulative delta is not clear enough for me to sort out which side it was. It's probably a flattener, but I'm not 100% sure. Marco Rubio, while Biden and the left continue to block more American oil production, a rapidly worsening shortage may lead to a rationing of jet fuel and diesel this summer here in the United States. Yes, it's hard to say, totally unexpected. Yeah, it is, like, given the context, they have a move that strong down and then completely retrace does seem quite unexpected, yeah? But I feel that might be more a function of that the liquidity is still pretty crappy in the treasuries, and it probably is really flighty at the beginning of the week. Last thing you want to do as a market maker is get yourself, on the wrong side of the inventory right from the very beginning of the week and have to fight back all week. So you're a little bit more wary at the beginning until you're more confident about which way it's going that you can take on an inventory. The Economist, it changed the culture of blaming and cover-ups. The law should be changed so that it distinguishes between gross negligence by healthcare professionals and ordinary human error. That sounds like an interesting article. I might read that. Overall sentiment looks long in the Treasury. I feel like I would prefer the long side, but I don't know, man. Like here's the thing. Like a longer term on the Treasury, we're kind of in an interesting time for the Treasury, because here's the thing, we haven't really had in the past. Let me stand up straight here. Let me get this microphone a little bit more in my face here. Okay. In the past, when we've had rising interest rates, we haven't had forward guidance, right? You got to remember that forward guidance with the Federal Reserve is a relatively new thing. And so we have a situation where the 10-year Treasury has already basically completely priced out the entire move, the entire cycle already. Like, they were talking about getting to 2.5. Maybe if things get crazy, they have to go to 3 to 4. but they hope not. And so far, the weakness in the economy suggests that they're not going to get that far. So that's just why the 10-year couldn't really hold itself meaningfully above 3%, right? So 2.8, 2.85, it seems pretty reasonable. And those were kind of the prices that we've been trading across the last 2 days. So we're kind of in an area of like longer term fundamental value. So you don't have that kind of thing in your favor. Like in the so far this year, you kind of could just go along with the momentum because it was very clear that it was just interest rates are rising, sell. Right now, it's not so clear, and so we're kind of at the mercy of what's the next big meta order. And I think in this particular situation, I'm particularly unsure what the next big meta order is going to be. It seems like there was a meta order that sold, but I'm not entirely sure. It could have just been random volume for all I know, you know? But that seemed like a relatively strong move. And now they're kind of chilling. President Biden acknowledged the U.S. economy has quote unquote problems, but said they were less consequential than the rest of the world has. You know what? I actually think that he may be right to some extent. I would probably rather be in the United States than elsewhere, but I was watching this. I saw this chart the other day that showed that European buyers were coming out of the U.S. market at record rates. So who is Nina Jankowicz? My paper lays out a government strategy for dealing with disinformation based on the 3 C's: capability, coordination, and cooperation. Yeah. It's a little funny to me that people in the government really think that the public is just gonna be like, okay, we trust you. And when it comes to the government being arbiter of what is disinformation and what isn't. You think Europe will soon be hit with a recession? Well, they're going to be hit by the Ukraine war a lot more than the U.S., right? That one thing is clear. But on the same token, they're not being hit by the recession, by inflation as hard, right? They didn't get as much inflation, and the companies that are really harmed by the inflation the most, aka Target and Walmart, are U.S. companies, right? So, but I think that for today, the more clear thing is that ECB's Lagarde spoke, and that had a firming effect on the euro and brought the dollar down. So the dollar being a little bit weaker today is probably the best factor that we have here in this puzzle to suggest to us that the equity markets could do okay today. Now, when I'm looking at the treasuries here, then like correlations, both the 6J and the gold appear very clearly pointed down, even though in the treasury it's a little fuzzy. But the correlations seem to suggest that we're going to have another down move. Yes, but they're not heavily funding Ukraine like the US. Well, I mean, funding the Ukraine war will add to the debt, but it's not like it's crazy compared to what we were doing in Iraq and so forth, right? I don't know. So the big headline this morning was I totally forgot about this. A reporter asked Joe Biden, "Would you defend Taiwan against an attack from China?" And he said, "Yes, that's our commitment." Well, it's not our commitment, but I'm glad to know that Joe Biden, like it was like a didn't even think about it kind of thing. And then of course the administration was afterwards, our policy in respect to China hasn't changed, yada yada yada. But so I feel that for me, that goes a long way. That goes a long, because there's been this whole thing about like, does Joe Biden actually even care? Would he even actually do anything? Now I'm looking at it, and it seems to me that he would, but maybe his handlers would stop him. But it's good to know that his gut feeling is kind of along with the American populace that we should not allow China to just step in and invade Taiwan and take it over. That would be just atrocious. So, but that whole thing was really interesting. Power outage in Salt Lake City. Okay. What the heck? South Korean exchanges such as Upbit issued a warning that the Mimble-Wimble extension blocks conducted by the LTC Foundation made the LTC transfer records unrecognizable. This warning may develop into the delisting of Litecoin in the future. Joe doesn't know, but the teleprompter sure does. Well, it was a question by a reporter. Like, so are we going to do that? And the reporter was like, are you sure? It was kind of funny. I mean, listen, I'm still really mad about what happened with Hong Kong. What happened in Hong Kong was terrible, dude. And Donald Trump just kind of flopped over. Like here's the thing. Okay, like I was a supporter of the president. Okay, of course I'm a Republican, so I'm just kind of going along with what the Republicans do because I know that you're not going to get much done by yourself. Okay, and he very much was like, well, attacking China probably wouldn't be good for my election prospects because the last thing I need to do is make an enemy like China who will try and fight against me in the election. So I'm just not going to say anything. So he kind of backed up and just like didn't do anything about it. So like in terms of like being worried that he would leave a country high and dry, yeah, I kind of feel like we left Hong Kong high and dry. I don't think that we should be going to war over Hong Kong or anything, but I think that the international community could have spoken up about it more. Okay. I don't know what that would have done, but it just kind of seemed like they were all pussies about it. And that situation, that's when I really started to get worried about Taiwan. Because China attacking Taiwan would just be like the greatest human rights disaster of all time. And if we just sat by and let it happen, that makes me terrified about the future, that you have a China that, will do anything and nobody's willing to stand up to them. That's pretty scary to me. But Joe Biden comes in and he says, off the cuff when he's not supposed to, oh yeah, we'll totally defend Taiwan. That's what our commitment was. Well, okay. We don't have a commitment, but IMF says global economy faces confluence of calamities in biggest test. Oh yeah, I forgot that what's her bucket is in the IMF now. Gordiva. That's just coming over the wire just now. Well, I'm not hearing it on my news squawk. I do have the news squawk on, right? I'm just seeing it come over Twitter right now. That comment. I don't know if that's really a market moving thing, but it seems like some interesting color. So the dollar is making a bit of a recovery. Do you think that the dollar will recover further, or do you think that they'll turn down? I saw some people using DOM with some extra window calling it sweep strategy or something. Is that the same you're using? So I'm not 100% sure what you're talking about. Are you talking about maybe the reconstructed DOM? So something that you can see is or something that happens, okay, is these big traders that are trading a huge block of stock. They have a button that says buy everything on offer. So it doesn't matter what the number is here, when they submit, it will exactly equal the number of orders that were on offer or bid. And you do that because you want to take out a price. So often what you could see them do, and they have like these macro buttons so they can do a bunch of different actions at the same time. You could say buy all 600 that are bid and then bid 600 more at 25. If I really would like to try and push it up, for instance, right? They do these sorts of things. So when you're looking in the reconstructed tape, Jigsaw will tell you, it will color it differently if it's a sweep, if it was everything that was bid or offered, and that can be useful. But you just got to remember that a lot of this is like large meta orders, and an order that's so large that they have to split it up. Okay. And they might not know what's going to happen. Okay. They are just trading because they need to rebalance their fund or something. A big influence, that thing that we're going to have to watch over the next, is it next week? Okay. So next week is the end of the month. So next Monday and Tuesday is probably going to be more extreme, but you might see some of it this week too. But you're going to see these guys rebalancing their funds for the end of the month, right? And those moves are often have nothing to do with the fundamentals. Okay, so there was one right there. This is a very large buy at 25.5. Now, in that context, that was a little out of nowhere, wasn't it? I almost feel like somebody's watching me and they're doing something just to try and screw us up. When you see a big order like that, you want to be a little bit wary because a large order can kind of become like a magnet. It looks like they just ticked up 2 ticks there. So that might be the thing that they needed to kick them into a more clear uptrend. You think that there'll be a sell-off in equities? Let's see. I tell you what, if the S&P 500 starts the week off with another strong sell, I'm just like, I'm going to be so fed up with this thing because it just keeps going and going and going. When does it stop? I just can't imagine what it takes anymore, you know? Yeah, but what kind of happens though is that the market maker just got burned there at 25.5, right? Like you're a market maker, you're sitting out there with 3,000 contracts on offer. You don't expect that to be hit. Then they hit you and they go through you by 2 ticks, right? You just got burned. So you're not gonna put much liquidity up in this area. You're gonna be putting your liquidity at 25.5 and trying to rebalance, right? So you're going to have an area of low latent liquidity at 25.5, and you already kind of had it at 26. So when I see a big order like that, I used to be like, oh, I want to make a trade, but now I'm often like, that's kind of damaging. If you're a big player, you kind of want to avoid throwing out a big lot like that because it has a tendency to kind of spook the market makers. Bezos and Elon decides to destroy the world because they're going to be... No. You know what I think this is something that's super frustrating, is that Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos do not care about how much money they have to pay the government. They really don't. Like it's when they're talking about this, they're not thinking, oh, I'm going to have less money. Okay. Because these guys have a standard of living that's already so high, right? The government could take 100% of their income, and they would still be living large. Okay, it has nothing to do with that. But people like Bezos and Elon, they've been involved in the markets and they understand how important capital is to the markets. And when the government comes and taxes those profits, especially the whole like preemptive, right? Like taxing unrealized capital gains, which is such a crazy idea, right? They know what it means because it's bad for the economy, because they understand investing. They understand capital, and they know the effect that these things will have on capital, and they know that those things are just ultimately bad for their businesses and bad for their workers as a result, and it just kind of goes down the chain. These people really are trying their best to be socially conscious. Okay, so it has nothing to do with them, oh, I'm going to lose all my money, so I'm just going to destroy everything. No, it doesn't work like that. The reality is that the policies that they're pushing in Washington are just not very good ones. Okay, so they did. Let's just remember there was a big order at 25.5. I'm going to move my little eye here, kind of mark that as the central point of interest. But based off of that large order, I wouldn't be surprised to see it oscillate around that price a little bit. We'll see if we get a trend in a certain direction. If this like all of a sudden turned into a downtrend, then that order would be like an awfully ugly head fake, wouldn't it? Big tech, big pharma, big oil, big defense, big finance run the world and own the government. Well, sure. What else is there? What? Where I think that we get big problems, right, is where a certain interest truly believes that a certain policy or whatever is in the best interest of everybody, and it really isn't. Like, and I think that this happens with big pharma all the time, is like the way that the pharmaceutical industry incentivizes things is sometimes doesn't incentivize them to like actually fix problems, and just creates larger problems. The whole healthcare industry is kind of old. God, there needs to be some work there, but it's hard. Like when market incentives are not aligned correctly, getting them, things set up so that they're in alignment is really hard. Problems lie in a slavish devotion to the merchant. Hey, listen, as a merchant here, I'm a little disturbed by your language, mister. No. Yes, monkey. Okay. So I've been wondering here, FTH, because there was a lot of people over the weekend talking about the monkey. Okay, so like, I think that they've been saying, like, world leaders have been talking about monkeypox, but they keep saying it's not going to be like a huge deal. We need to quarantine. We got to put this one in perspective. Okay, if there is monkeypox cases in the West, okay, then you need to quarantine those individuals and anybody that they've come into contact with. It's probably not a huge swath of people. And that disease is extremely, even if there was a more contagious version of it flying about, that's unlikely to be like a widespread breakout in the Western world. Okay, enough that healthcare officials, that that's their whole life, that they're going to do stuff about it, but enough that it would affect the stock market, probably not. Enough that it would affect the stock market? Probably not. Now, the issue that we have with pandemics is that they are very fat-tailed, right? So when we were at the beginning of the COVID crisis, we were saying, well, the probability is this isn't going to be a big deal. And if it is a big deal, then, it would be a short-term thing. Well, we were kind of right about that, but then they also kind of took it too far, and because they took it too far, we've had long-lasting after effects because of it. I really think that COVID could have been like a serious thing to flatten the curve that summer, and then everybody probably could have been okay. I mean, we handled it okay in Utah, at least. So it's the same thing with monkeypox, right? Like, it's unlikely to be a problem, but if it does end up being a problem, it's going to be like a really big problem, right? But so far, I don't think that any of these people in the Western world have died from it, for instance. So that one is probably more likely to the case that the media is just kind of make that louder than it really should be. Yeah, Marco Rubio tweeting up of the storm today. This week, a Democrat party infiltrated by Marxists and left-wing extremists will try to pass a bill giving them the power to go after anyone they decide to label as racist or... Oh, that's right. The big political thing right now is the Democrats are trying to push a bill on domestic terrorism bill, right? That one is actually a little scary to me because we've labeled this thing like, here's the thing. Now, do you really want to go into that one? No, we're talking about monkeypox. I'm being super ADHD. I'm going to go into that one. Okay. Terrorism in the George Bush era was unique because it was like another country coming in and conducting terrorist acts against our populace. And as such, that made it a unique threat. When it comes down to what they call, quote unquote, domestic terrorism, which, as we've seen it so far, is basically like crazy guy has this idea and he goes and conducts acts of terrorism. Okay. That's very different from some sort of shadowy organized effort to affect politics, like when it's a lone wolf. And so the Biden administration trying to use these lone wolf instances to try and pass a law that gives the government even more power is a little scary. Of course, it's not going to pass, but man. So that just might be, I don't think that's going to affect trade or anything, but it definitely affects the overall conversation. Okay, so we are seeing the treasuries come down a little bit more now. And again, I see the downtrend seems to be much more clear in gold and the 6J. But they are coming into an area where there's kind of been some pivots before. Isn't it funny how Antifa and BLM looted, rioted, and even occupied major cities, and that was never called? Yeah, I that's how I feel. I've read up, man. I wonder about Reddit sometimes. So on the domestic terrorism bill, and you go onto the r/politics thread, of course the people at the top are like totally in support of it. But when you go and you sort by controversial, all of a sudden there is an unusually high number of people being like, what? No. I really wonder how much artificial manipulative content there is on Reddit. I feel that r/politics in particular is probably being flooded by, bots. I mean, we know that they were active during Clinton's campaign with like, what were they called? Correct the Record or whatever the deal was, right? And I'm pretty sure that they're still out there doing Democrat propaganda. And I kind of wonder if that's one of those cases where it becomes really clear that there's like they have an organized set of talking points and they have a bunch of posters that are supposed to be there on Reddit to post things to kind of set a narrative. But I just don't think that people are buying it anymore. I think that everybody on Reddit has kind of come to the conclusion that like anything that you see on Reddit in terms of politics is like complete bullshit. At least within the r/politics subreddit. Let's see here. Brannigan Barrett. Important piece of price action. The ECB's Lagarde turned hawkish. While market was already fully pricing these hikes, the fact that the DAX is up 0.9% on the day tells you everything is about near-term sentiment. Today is a bullish day for equities. Trade accordingly, says Brannigan. I remember in the Reddit map that people draw using pixels was full of bots. Oh yeah. It was pretty funny when r/place first went out, how quickly people figured out how to use the API and make bots on it. I think that was part of the experiment, though. Is like they made these bots that allowed you to like automate at least your own actions so that you never missed a pixel. I think that was part of the experiment. Oh man, they're making another Mission Impossible movie with Tom Cruise? Boy. Dude. We've been waiting for like 2 years, I think it is. But next week. Is it next week? Where's my phone? I have it. These you can tell the things that matter, folks, because I have it. I have it on. Yes, it's this Friday. This Friday. Top Gun. Oh my gosh. I am so pumped. Like, I'm reading the reviews and stuff about Top Gun. Listen, I'm not sponsored by them or anything. Okay, it's just I'm excited about this movie. It looks so effing cool. Tom's getting a bit stiff. He's getting a little old, don't you think? Not just politics, but even r/science is very dogmatic. The blah. Okay, so r/science is an interesting one. Yeah, I've seen a number of studies that became very popular on that subreddit that were like clearly complete bullcrap. So I give you an example. This one's kind of trivial. There was this study where this lady, I think it was one person, right? And there were self-reported responses about what breed your dog was and how it behaved. And so the owners would report how the dog behaved. And I was like, well, that's not reliable and in the least bit. They said, oh, your dog breed doesn't really affect the personality all that much. What a load of crap. And then it turned into this big long thing about husky owners, because some husky owners are in denial. Well, the problem with, okay, I think Taybot is kind of a different instance, right? Because those robots are really just training on a data set. And basically what people did is they just gave it a bad data set. Right. Which is a big, when we're talking about market algorithms in the market, that's something you really want to keep in mind. Like the situation where the robots screw up are often these situations that we're in right now, where it's like really quite unprecedented action, and the robot doesn't know how to figure out what the macroeconomic framework is and which way it should move based on that. It doesn't know that stuff. All it can do is fit on past data, right? So you can get all sorts of weird behavior. Or I think more the thing that we're seeing going on right now is that the market is so unusual, they don't know what to do with it. They just turn the robots off and all of the market liquidity disappears. you're making me feel very ADHD this morning, guys. I'm bouncing all over the place. Yeah, r/science, sometimes they allow studies on there that are nonsense. And then the comments are always BS. I think they really ruined that subreddit because there can be so many fun conversations off of scientific studies, and it's like anything that's not like about the study itself gets deleted. It's a really quite nonsense. And it's especially problematic. Where it bothers me is that there are studies with very strong political implications. And I think that very often there are political biases in these studies. But you're not allowed to talk about the politics of it at all. Is a little questionable. So I think that there are some studies out there. Well, so I'll give you an example. Oh, like I'm trying, I'm kind of treading on shaky ground here on this one. Okay, but there was this study where these guys, they would show you images of different people, and then they would like record your brainwave responses, and then they would look for your brain to respond in a certain way if you saw people of a different race. And they were using this. They were saying, oh, you could have an unconscious bias, essentially. So they were saying that certain people that would react a certain way to this test were unknowingly racist. And the whole science behind this study was total bunk. And a lot of people in conservative circles like really poked a lot of holes in the science to the point that it kind of makes you wonder, like, how does this stuff get published? But and all of that conversation in Reddit and the larger web was just completely hidden. And we're getting into a lot of really odd societal issues. Like, I think that that 20% of Generation Z kids identify as LGBT. And Bill Maher over the weekend was joking about it, saying it's because it's doubling every generation. He's like, by 2050, everybody will be gay. And there's studies being done on this, and like how do you that you could have a study comes out, says one thing, and it can be complete nonsense, right? And then people don't get to have that discussion because on r/science, they ban all of that discussion. That's what happens. Yeah. I have lots of problems with Reddit, but you know what? This goes back to Dig, is it bothered me on Dig. And, on Dig, it was kind of getting to the point where enough of the general public was getting involved on that website that some of people were starting to fight against the bias. And so what happened was they moved over to Reddit, where just any old Joe can go and take control of a subreddit, and they can 100% push their bias and be totally underhanded about it, and there's nobody will challenge them. That's what Reddit was all about. You think it's the cool new thing? I think it's a little bit more than that. Maybe ZN and ES correlation broken. I'm not too sure. So the treasury right now seems to be moving largely on its own. I mean, the treasury complex is moving together, like the 6J and everything, but we have yet to get a really clear directional meta order in the treasuries. There's been orders both ways, but did I warn you about those big orders at 25, right? And what's happened since then? It's kind of like they went down 2 ticks, they went up. Yeah, it's been messy. So I think that we still kind of have a market that is maybe waiting to see what the S&P 500 does on the open. I don't think that it's necessarily the cool thing. Like here's the thing. If you go to school in Utah, okay, and you're like loud and proud, you're not gonna be the cool kid. I guarantee you. Not in Utah. I don't think it's that. But what I do see is they've very much created a culture, right? And it's a culture that's very, very much about like people seeking the affirmation of others. And so it kind of the culture kind of perpetuates itself. It's like once you get involved, it kind of pulls you in and it keeps you in. So how many kids are there? Like, how, here's the thing, how would you define if somebody is really actually gay or not? Is there some test you can take? Seems, like we don't have any science suggesting that you could do such a thing yet, right? Or that such a thing is even possible. But here's another case where like there is, so with transgender in particular, there was this study where they compared the brain waves of transgender people to, like if there was a male that became female, and then their brain waves would be the same as a natural female or a born female. But I've been, I don't really see a whole lot of information out there about that study or any, what's the the detractor viewpoint of that study. I'm not seeing it. It kind of seems to me like the conversation about it gets squelched. And this is where, again, I say that it's like you kind of get this culture that kind of becomes self-perpetuating, right? Like once you get sucked into it, it just sucks you further. I clicked X on financial juice, recapped on market risks, and I don't know how to bring it back. Oh, and you can't just refresh the page? I'm not sure what you're talking about because I don't see that. You talking about the top one? Oh yeah, need to know market risks. Well, ECB's President Lagarde, we are likely to open in a position to exit negative interest rates by the end of quarter 3, and Biden confirmed yes when asked if the U.S. is willing to defend Taiwan. Those brain, I don't know what you're saying there, Roland. But what I'm saying is this: we have a situation where our scientific knowledge on a subject is not very mature. And so we definitely need to do the scientific research, and there should be a very rigorous study and debate about it. But what I see is that, number one, I'm not entirely sure that you can always trust the scientific research on some of those. There seems to be ulterior motives in some instances. And I don't really see the debate. I don't see people, it's like people aren't allowed to openly question studies. And like, here's the thing, I think this is one of the things that really drives Nassim Taleb crazy, is that he's found some really good math. Like he's made big money out of this math, that to the point that he can retire basically and just be a scholar all the time. And the stuff that he was publishing was just being squelched. And the problem is that basically what he was doing was he was exposing statistical flaws in a very large swath of psychology and sociology research, basically saying that all of these things are complete hogwash because you can't use the statistics in the way that they're trying to do it. And he's right. Like IQ in particular has been very abused, especially when it comes to going from the general to the particular. I think that that's a place where we can make mistakes as traders in particular. Is that we can say in general, the treasury market tends to be mean reverting over the long term, much more than other markets. But that doesn't mean that you can come into any one particular day and say it's more likely to mean revert. You're not going to be successful with that because you're trying to take a stat from the general and apply it to the particular. And we see many, many traders do this, right? They go and they get all these stats and they say, okay, the S&P 500 tends to do X 60% of the time. Well, what you're doing is you're trying to take a stat from the general and try and apply it to the particular. And it's fallacious application of statistics. So is the study legit? I don't know. I've been trying to find more information about it and I can't. Maybe I need to go and read the study itself. I don't know if I really care that much, but it's an odd issue, don't you think? Well, one thing I forgot to point out is that we're seeing oil come back quite meaningfully, right back to 110, and then kind of chilling here now at 110. Do HFT firms pay a transaction fee when they buy a seller shares? They do it at such a fast rate. How do they minimize their costs? Yes, they do, Max. So the thing is that when you trade, right, you're going to pay a fee for the exchange and a fee for your broker / data fee. Well, for us, it's like the broker takes a bit, the data fee takes a bit, and the exchange takes a bit for us, right? And on a micro contract, it comes out to be about $1. Treasury is coming back up here and maybe going to test the upside. So if you are a firm, one of the first things you can do is you can have a seat, right? So that you can cut out the broker. And if you have a seat, then your exchange fee is less. And if you're turning thousands of turns a year, then you do save a lot of money from doing that. So yes, that's how they reduce their fees. Seems that on that leg up, the 30-year did not move quite as much. When I'm looking at the spreads, the spread today looks very disorganized and unclear. So this must be a situation where we have light liquidity. Maybe there's a few big guys trying to make some plays, like speculating on the day, but that we don't have a very clear imbalance one way or the other in terms of which way the orders are going to go. And that it's probably anybody that's going to be executing such a large meta order of that nature may be waiting for the S&P 500 to start. eBay launches first NFT collection. Oh boy. You know what's something interesting I find about this market that I haven't seen in past markets is we are basically coming into a bubble pop, right? They call it the everything bubble, but there was some stuff that was being hawked at the height of this market that was crazy, and NFTs was probably the most ridiculous, right? Some of these NFTs going for millions of dollars and then all of a sudden coming back and only being worth a few hundred, right? Well, the thing that I find interesting is that now we're having the crash and you still see people trying to sell that nonsense. Like they didn't come to the conclusion that, oh, it was nonsense and we should all after these people and nobody ever touches it. No, they're still in denial. They are pushing the upside in the 10-year. It is above the other two, which is a little interesting. Is the 10-year gonna drag them up? I'm a little skeptical about that because, in fact, I'm going to take a sim trade here if I can. Okay, it pulled them up. If that there might be a situation where the 10-year is kind of pulling it and it gets dragged back down. Because I wasn't seeing enough volume just there in the 10-year to justify. Okay, so there was pretty good. Oh, I didn't get filled because he swept it. So that's not going too hot. If it had hit into it, I think that maybe I should have canceled that because it wasn't able to hit into it with a market order. I don't know if I'm actually going to get the 27 because there does appear to be some uptrend going on here, right? Yeah. Well, there's a reason that we do those on our sim account, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, which reminds me, somebody else asked earlier if we take live trades. We definitely do, but I'm very selective about it. I'm very selective about it. Okay. And we were able to get out of that with only a 1 tick loss, so I think we're okay. Oh yeah, I forgot about Truth Social. I do have a Truth Social account now, by the way, Speculator Seth, so you can go and check that out if you're over there. I'm not going to push it too hard though, because the trading community is definitely on Twitter, right? Okay, well, so it's interesting to me that the 10-year is pushing the upside here just on the open of the S&P 500. So far on the open, it looks like it's another sell. Oh, wow. Did you really do all the math, Ashk, on that? Seat becomes lucrative around 3,500 CB contracts in the quarter. Makes sense. And it's interesting for me to hear some of the stories about people that were trading in the late 90s, early 2000s and talking about getting a seat. That was like almost was like a necessary thing for them to really trade the way they wanted to or whatever. Okay, so we are starting to see some real volume come through here though. Especially in the 10-year. It's much more isolated, the 10-year. Oil is coming roaring back. That might be part of it. No, actually that doesn't make sense because oil roaring back would probably push the treasury down. So this ES I'm a little suspicious about because it's trending down so far, but it's been a pretty slow grinder still. That kind of makes me want to buy it, but then like why is it going down? I would like to see like some capitulation and a reversal there. When thinking about taking one over here in the micro. Not many orders down in here, most of them at 285. Okay, so there's another tick. The problem that we probably have here is that if the S&P 500 reverses, yeah, sure enough, the treasuries might come back. So that right there is kind of my warning that I might not want to touch that. Okay. Dun, 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 dun. So I'm going to mess with this sim in the ES here. So may have to puke it. I don't know. Volume right there at 28, it looks not too shabby though. It looks like there might maybe a little bit of buying stepping in that location. Yes, and in fact, the big sell comes through, they quickly recover it, and they're pushing the other side. Yeah, there it is again. It's responding quite nicely. The treasuries continue pushing up. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I should be short the treasury. I feel like that's a little late. I'm a little worried about 120 being there is like a really big even number. Like that's like a I could try if in the 10-year here, I could try the level break trade to get that. But over here in the micros, I'm not so sure that selling into 2.82 makes much sense. Looks like I might be left behind. Not looking so hot in ES. Should have bought on Friday's lows. Yeah, but they have to hold it over the weekend. Like, ew. You're short? Well, I got a sim long in ES, but it's just a gamble on my part. I don't know if I really have anything solid to tell me this can move up. Do you think that there has been some favorable volume in some of these areas, although that last move down towards to push the new lows did push the cumulative delta lower. Treasuries look like they're not going to stop, man. $26 is the new 7-year OTR, so Zion will adjust the basket. Oh, you're talking about 26's first call. Yeah, you're right. Because it happens over the weekend. Yeah, right here, I think, well, there's still, I think that there's a possibility that they push the overnight low and then recover. We'll see. I'm still a little, I don't know, man. So I was looking at 283. I said, well, 2835, 283, right? And then, no, I don't know, because we got 120 even there. Well, they smashed through 120 even, but I'm still concerned about S&P 500 flips around and the treasuries flip too. So I don't know. I'm just going to sit tight here for a bit. I've missed a lot of big moves in the treasuries, but the treasuries, are just trading a wide range anyways. So I think it's better that I get it right. See that? There's a rally forms in the S&P 500, and the treasuries give back gains very quickly. So that's not a trade that I really want to take, is it? Unless I'm confident that the S&P 500 is just going to be a down day, which I'm not so sure about at the moment. I think that the buyers may end up pulling something out. Well, if that's the case, maybe I should go long the micros, huh? That would be a real gamble. Long 2.815. You might be able to get to A1. Back to the 28 area. So that's good. Maybe a little too late now. Could do 8-2. Yeah, still didn't get to our first kind of take profit at 39.35. Maybe I was a little too. Maybe asking for 5 points is a little too much. I don't know. Are we seeing some flattening? We are seeing a little bit of flattening. Still 282 though. Okay, I got filled. Take 2 more if they come back. Oh, did I get filled already, huh? Surprised it was that fast. You like the open in ES and NQ? Well, it's the most active time of the day. It's not the most volume per se, but it's the most active time of the day. Commodity traders resist taking delivery of key Russian palladium supplies, disrupting global markets, says Bloomberg. That's interesting. Didn't get the upside again. So here's the point where if we want to take a long, if we want to go long ES, if we think that the overall trend in ES is up, we got a pretty decent pullback. This is where we would take it. But given the reactivity to ES, I'm going to sit on my hands. But 9282 is like, that's where you want to go short, right? Go short in micros. That's why it's like, if I really think it's going to reverse, is 2.82 really good price to try and take that from? Because that's where you're going, the other way. The volume long, it was definitely significant in the 10-year, though. There we go. That looks very, very nice. ES has only been open for 15 minutes. You kind of have to wonder, because we've had a lot of days this lately in ES where for the first little bit it was just choppy, right? Alligator, I don't expect much action before Powell and Laguard's speech tomorrow. It's a fight? I think that the what I'm seeing so far is consistent with a meta order buy coming through. Okay. Feeling a little sleepy. My eyes are kind of like going, like rolling, like I want to fall asleep. The 5-year is coming back really hard as the S&P 500 breaks the regular session high. So is it in fact 282 wouldn't have been so bad? I will take another set up here. Up here somewhere. It looks like they've still got the momentum behind them, huh? Yeah, that's looking mighty strong. Okay. I'm still long ES with my sim. Obviously, the price that I ended up getting wasn't the best, but you were checking about ZN. I was at one point I was kind of thinking about going along 2.82. I was kind of feeling let's try and reverse it, but I wasn't. Obviously, I didn't take a trade right. I'm still kind of watching the order flow here and saying like it seems like I'm making good calls, but the trade in the 10-year is not really that clear. So it's probably, good on me to be extra careful. Right. There's 283. So 283 was where it was like I should have gone short here. So I could have made 20 bucks on that, I guess, but and kind of makes you wonder, okay, so again, somewhere between 120 even and the open is like maybe you buy the 10-year if you think that it's going to go for another leg. But the way that it's reacting to the S&P 500 and the S&P 500 looking like it will have a recovery day or week, I'm not so sure that trade short in the micros of versus, or aka long in the 10-year really makes sense. Okay, I did get the other fill there. Seem being a little too picky because I could get 282 to 283. But do I think that I'm going to get 284 or 285? I'm not sure. So I'm not doing anything. SPY Lotto alerts working nicely. Says print trading. They're kind of suggesting that now is a good spot to go long calls. Yeah. That was looking good. I'm also not liking that I'm feeling a little sleepy, but that might, if I took a trade here in the micro 10, that would probably wake me up awfully quickly. Okay, so it's reverting here a little bit, even though the S&P 500 continues to press forward. 39.50. It's going to be interesting. What we might be seeing is them unloading their gamma hedges. So if this week ends up being a recovery, if we see the S&P 500 have no, I don't drink coffee. It's just water. It's just a big water jug. It's a hydro flask or whatever. Not that I support these overpriced water bottle brands that are just cheap knockoff Chinese bottles that they mark up. But I got a good price for it at Costco, and it works really well. It keeps the water cold. I like that. I like that it keeps it cold. I do not necessarily like the way the 10-year is behaving. The micro 10-year here. Okay, so what's happening is the 30 is coming back significantly. The 30 is coming back on this move up. The 30 is pushing a lot harder, and that's causing a lot of flattening. And ES is pulling back and basically back below the open again. But I'm going to be more interested in where we took our original trade at, 39.30. Hmm. Hmm. There's a tweet being retweeted by Bitfinex where this guy is basically accusing Terra of manipulating people. I think that's what he's suggesting. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but that's be one, if you're interested in that stuff, it would be one interesting to look at, because he says that he has information from whistleblowers. Three, two, huh? It's kind of hard to judge in ES the way that the liquidity is going to react. I mean, there is a high volume node there at 2932. I'm not sure how long it takes for them to recover and stuff. It could be that they're stuck there for a little while longer. It's only been 30 minutes. I could try taking this range again, but doesn't feel as interesting. I'm still feeling kind of like I'm gonna. Ugh. Dollar doing some interesting things here. It seems that when the S&P 500 started to recover, we were seeing a drop in the dollar again. Well, it looks like the sellers are going to sell again. So they're starting to do this chop thing. I don't know. I'm a little worried about this spot, 39.25. But I could add at least one there. They've been sitting there at 29 quite nicely for a while now. Seller's not letting up yet. Well, I'm pretty sure that my chemicals are messed up if I'm sitting here talking to you and I still feel like I might just like fall asleep. Sometimes I just get like this. Okay, so now the treasuries are kind of going like, maybe it is a sell day. Maybe we need to bid this up. There's okay, so I have to peak this at break even, right? Puke the ES one. Hey, I did okay on it. It was a gamble, right? I was looking for it to just run too, so. Well, they did kind of come through some levels up in here, right? And if we break new lows again, there's going to be some levels down in here, so. That was some stops on that one. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. Meant to do that. Okay. Clear. Didn't mean to clear my orders. I meant to clear my drawings. Yeah, okay. So I got out of that one. It's okay, I guess. We are seeing the treasuries show a bit of risk aversion here. It's not nearly as strong as those first legs, even though the ES is going deeper. Just for most people, losses and take it. Well, that one was, I only want to take like one. Like I think maybe in the ES that for the sort of moves that I'm trying to do, I need to take a much wider view just because there's so much randomness in it in the ES anyways. But that was two good swings there, came back. I think that my scenario of it's going to break out to the upside bullish sort of a day doesn't seem to be happening, does it? Doesn't. Hey, maybe they still end up being a green day in the end, but the breakout long day recovery sort of thing, I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. So great spot to just scratch it, right? Now here in the 10-year, I am seeing the flight to safety, but there's a little iceberg there at 30.5 that is not the most favorable thing in the world. And I'm not seeing the 30-year tick up there after these two ticked up, so. But it could continue, but I'm not, the flight to safety volume, not as strong over here. So we may just need to be patient, but that doesn't look too good. It kind of looks like that there is a node here at 29 that they're just getting sucked back into. Yeah. I don't like that. Nah, you had to know. Not really. I think that a lot of this is just random, dude. I was kind of curious that it was 45 where it got to, and then it turned back around, huh? So then the question becomes, we're awfully close to 3,900, right? Yeah, well, so I do think that maybe some of what we're seeing in ES is just chop, right? Because there does appear to be a good amount of break the higher low and then immediately reverse. Because that's basically what it happened in ES. Well, I took some contracts off up in there and everything, so it was okay. But I thought it would hover there for a while and then eventually they would make another push up. That is not what happened at all, was it? It just completely reversed. Well, not too sure about the 10-year here. I think that my initial trade entry was really bad. I guess it wasn't terrible, but it's not looking so good now. I've been having a hard time getting a lot of favorable excursion lately in the treasury, to be honest with you. I get like 3 ticks and then it never goes in my favor again. Previous 2 days were run-ups and down and closed slightly lower than the open. So you get this thing in equity indexes where you'll have a lot of really volatile days and that often results in short-term reversals. Doesn't mean the crisis is over. It can go back and forth like a couple of times, but I'd kind of been looking for that. And there was, when we'd get these days that were like big down days, kind of made us think, oh, okay, yeah, we're going to do that. But then it was like, it would go down and it would go down and it would go down the next day and it would go down right. You didn't really get that extreme volatility both directions. So no, is order flow and price action a similar thing? No. Order flow is watching the orders. Price action is just another buzzword for we do technical analysis but don't want to admit it. Listen, here's the thing. Watching the order flow is important because from watching the order flow is the only way to understand what's going to happen. But you've got to get away from this idea that what happened in the past tells you what's going to happen in the future. That's not necessarily true, okay? There can be a situation where you expect that something is going to happen, and then you see it, and then that can give you a really good confirmation that you're going to continue to see more. And then it kind of becomes a predictive thing, I suppose. But you can't do it the other way and say, okay, I saw this X thing and now it's going to continue or it's going to reverse or whatever. The market just doesn't work like that, guys. The market moves on orders. And if somebody in the S&P 500 decided to come in and just all of a sudden buy 60,000 contracts, it's going to go up. It doesn't matter what your signals say. And these guys, they can come in and decide to do that sort of thing at any time, just like completely arbitrarily. Everything in technical analysis is really based on this faulty assumption that the markets are informationally efficient, that the current price factors in all available information, and it doesn't. It doesn't. The price can vary very, very wildly from fundamental value because of large meta orders. So we just want to follow the large meta orders, and you can't necessarily predict those just from looking at the order flow. But the order flow should confirm what you expect to see if you have like a good theory, right? Why are people kissing monkeys? I think that they were saying that it can spread through droplets. So the 10-year has been whipping around here quite a bit, actually. And ES doing the same. So are we still in correlated with ES land? They will run into accountability level at 10K. What are you talking about? They not only can they, but I've watched them do it. Like I've literally stood behind somebody and watched them do it before. I don't know about 60,000 in ES. There are levels at which you have to like report your positions and stuff, sure. But these are people that probably already have that sort of thing going on. But it might not be that they're going to buy 60,000 contracts in ES, right? It's probably more that they're going to buy big blocks of stock, right? It's probably more likely thing that you're going to see. But you just got to keep in mind that it's possible for one large order to completely overwhelm everything else that you're seeing, especially in a situation where the S&P 500 has been kind of whiplash, whipping back and forth and stuff. One order, and it wouldn't even have to be that large of an order, could completely determine the result. Well, that wasn't too good for me. The 10-year held a little bit better than some of the others, but no, that's not the way that we want to see it. Are they going to drop down and go back to the lows again? I'm wondering. For it to be 812 and it be doing this is just awfully choppy for the treasury. Probably should have stuck to what I was saying earlier and not tried to take it, but the ES pushing those lows really started to make it feel like something else was happening. Hmm. It's back up to 29 in the 10-year again. That still kind of suggests that that there's nothing really moving them, but it was just market makers kind of pushing to the edge to try and stop people out. Wouldn't say that that's necessarily a good sign on it going up either, but is ES not going to make it back to 39.30? They're already kind of running out of steam there. A military plane from Europe carrying enough formula for 500,000 baby bottles arrived in the U.S. as part of what Biden calls Operation Fly Formula. What a stupid name. I'm pretty sure you probably could come up with a better name for baby formula drop. Man, listen, love him or hate him, okay, you all know that Donald Trump would come up with a better name for that operation. You all know it's true. Fly formula, okay. See, if it continues the pattern it's been doing, they're going to break 39.30, and then maybe they turn back down if this is truly a down day, right? You have doubts it's going to even do anything useful. Yeah, it does kind of. I mean, the flow that we're seeing in the ES, it was a good down. I mean, look, there was a decent move in cumulative delta, but it is pretty tepid, right? If this was going to be like a really strong trend in one direction, you would have seen more like tens of thousands of contracts traded. This is a little more wishy-washy. Doesn't mean that it won't turn into something. Bank of England's Governor Bailey is talking. Park is down 2.5%, really. Okay, let's recenter this. So when I'm looking at the order flow, I'm still seeing this flattener. Like I see mostly buying in the 30-year and mostly selling in the 5-year. They're still flattening. I must say on the other side though that this range in the treasuries, they've spent a lot more time at the bottom of this range than the top of it. They're able to cross the range pretty easily, but they've been hanging out at the bottom a lot more. Jordan Peterson is tweeting about something this morning. I have no clue what that is. Talking about some college thing, I think. Lower, high, lower, low. So, listen, Dow theory has some apparent usefulness on a daily time frame, but I've tested all that stuff on intraday basis, and it doesn't mean a darn thing. The Lobster King, what? There's the only thing that matters. What are the future orders going to be? And a lot of the time, most of the time, those future orders don't care what the last swing was. They care what Governor Bailey is saying, though, I think. I reject the argument that in our response to COVID, the bank's monetary policy committee let demand get out of hand and thus stoked inflation. I don't know if it was that bad in Europe, but it certainly seemed to happen in the United States, okay? Well, that was a pretty good sell that just came through there in ES. But the Treasury is still not reacting to those. See, this is why it's going to be so frustrating when the S&P 500 correlation is one of the dominant factors in the treasury, because it's like it'll just magically come and go. And so now all of this, and I mean, maybe if the ES like pushes another new low on the session, then things might shift. But so far that pushback down in ES didn't seem to cause any reaction out of them. I guess they are at the higher end of the range now, finally. So there's that. And if they were to bid 30, that could look really good on the chart. Okay. So a trickle into it, but they didn't take 30. And it's suggesting that the correlation hasn't really come through yet. Although I am seeing some volume in the 6J, kind of suggests that they could continue. Well, I shouldn't say that they should continue, but they were more interested in it on this leg up. There was a lot more volume on this leg up in the 6J compared to the earlier leg up. Yep, too soft. Bid is too soft there. 3-4 ticks down there. Hardly any volume to do it. I didn't see a move in the 6J there either. They kind of did it on their own. I guess the ES came back to the top of its range though. Like that strong sell that they had canceled out, right? How long has it been? It's been 20 minutes for us. Yes, just turned down again a little bit. Nope, it's still kind of it's still unsure what it's gonna do. Okay. Yeah. Right now the treasuries are just kind of holding their ranges and correlations still. The crap Mondays, Octavia says, yeah. Well, I mean, we had decent moves, but it wasn't. It was both ways. It's kind of really uncertain right now, right? And then the last 20 minutes or so is just kind of gone dead. I mean, the treasuries look like they're interested in doing something, but they want to see what the S&P 500 is going to do. I think it seems like they want to see what the S&P 500 is going to do. We'll see here. They're kind of sitting at the top of the range here. The volume, at least in the 10 and the 30s, still kind of suggests that we are seeing some sort of a buy / flattener coming through in the treasuries. Let's see if probably if the S&P 500 takes a more significant swing down, that might bring in some more volume into the treasuries to break those highs. Well, go and bid at 30 is a good sign. And even some volume at 30.5, just a teeny bit though. See, the ES, it keeps kind of doing stuff like it could do it and then doesn't. In fact, that buy there looked really, really good, relatively speaking. The volume, though, is still down. I don't know, guys. So we should just keep in mind, like, should just make note here that the volume in ES is still down for the session, even though they've basically come back to the open. So the volume in ES is not giving us a very clear direction. Right? The thing that the volume seems to be showing the most clearly, though, is a flattener in the treasuries. Okay, well, that was an easier push back up to 30 going bid, but didn't stay bid. Because ES did take a little bit of a dive lower, at least below 39.25. Is this going to play out? So one of the things that I was looking at earlier, if I come over here to the chart, is that sometimes when you're chopping, what you'll see is this ATR stop thing. They'll break it and then reverse, right? They'll break it, reverse. They break it and reverse. So I was expecting they would come back up above it and reverse. And that's why I was saying, oh, they're only getting to like 39.25 and not 39.30 yet. And they were slowing down, made me a little bit concerned about it. So now that they've broken it, you might think, well, they'll go back and take the 39.10 again, right? If they were going to continue chopping, at least. But there is a scenario where they just hold it in this node here and eventually push higher. I mean, those are your basic two choices, right? Ouch. Well, that's going to be a mighty big hammer there in ES. Maybe, I guess now it doesn't look like a hammer anymore. Ouch, ouch, ouch. I gotta get out of this. It was looking so good and it whipped right back around in less than a minute, didn't it? Well, that really sucked. But you know what? I shouldn't have been in that trade as long as it was. No. 30 minutes and I only got 3 favorable ticks. That's not very good trade, is it? That's kind of like, so now I want to turn around and just like revenge trade it, right? But that says to me that I am not on. So probably I should just back off for today. I mean, you can make money off of this volatility if you're willing to put on a lot of risk, right? But that's not the way that I try and play the micro treasuries. So there's a good chance that it will come back up to the 29 again still. Should I have held on there? I think maybe I should have, but it was getting a little frustrating. It'll make me feel better if I take it over here in the treasury and make the range back. We'll see. Corn's seeing some odd activity this morning. I don't know, man. Maybe ES is going to eventually, in the end, pull out a win. I mean, there's the high, right? Accumulation, maybe. Well, no. It's hard to tell what's going on in the index because the volume is not matching up very well. So there's a lot of hedging activity going on in the futures, probably. So I'm kind of starting to feel this impulsiveness coming in because I just want to reverse it and try and go long the micros here now. ES did break the regular session high, but only by a few ticks, and then they turned back down to the 40s again. I don't know about that. That's a little odd. Okay. Are we seeing a change in the spread? Wow. Arby's launches a Wagyu beef burger? Oh, I'm going to need to go try that. A tick down. A tick down. So scratch that sim trade. $8.36. Well, the volume definitely started resolving to the downside now in the treasury, in the 10-year. Corn is breaking out of its highs. Corn looks like it's really moving. The 2-year is seeing a lot of a relative volume here for some reason. But corn is the real mover this morning. Looks like Bitcoin's not doing too shabby either. Although there was a return back to test the 30K level in Bitcoin. Yeah, I don't know. I could have maybe bought 283, but it's still kind of chopping around that area, right? Like it seems like ultimately the treasuries may push down, but I don't know if you got a good spot for a trade. $99% of wasabi. Why are you talking about wasabi? No, we're talking about wagyu. Talking about wagyu. It's a special it's Japanese beef. It's highly marbled. I don't know what they do to the cows to make them like that, but it's weird. Okay. And the fat is a much more fine fat, so it's kind of more like butter. Feels more like butter in your mouth. More of a smooth texture than a gritty texture, like a hamburger usually is. It's just kind of starting to look really heavy in the 10-year, isn't it? Still holding the 27, but it does seems heavy. Well, there's your move. Back and forth at 26.5, quite a bit there, in fact. Yes, still looking positive though. So like we're seeing the interest rates rise, but not like really very aggressively compared to what it was doing earlier in the session. Oh, in fact, quite a bit of a pullback there. Yeah. So this is the same thing. It's like, okay, yeah. I really want to take another trade. And maybe try and take it the other way, but it's kind of giving me all those signs. So like you get this thing where it gets correlated to the ES. And then just as soon as ES seems to be breaking out and everything, and then all of a sudden it relaxes. Like the treasury doesn't react as much. So you don't get paid for doing it. You don't get paid for playing the correlation. I really wonder what's going on in Cord here. They flipped back around so hard. There is some strong volume, relatively speaking, on that up move. So also some strong volume in the ZB on that downturn. I mean, it doesn't mean that you can't make money off of the treasury, but you probably can't hit into it. Like the best way you could do is put a bid at 28.3/2 and try and get filled on limit. Coinbase aims to launch listed derivatives in 2022. Okay. And there's another good tick down. I should reset this. So even though it's pushing down to the bottom end of that range, the treasuries don't seem all that bothered by it. Hmm. $15 minutes. I find myself wanting to take a trade around 8:30 to 9 o'clock a lot these days, don't I? Those trades usually don't pan out for me, though. The thing is we did see a large meta order like at around 7:30. Well, when was that? Yeah, the first bit of the E-mini when it was going down. So I don't think that we should necessarily expect to see anything happen at 8:45 in particular, because it's not. We we don't have a really clear meta order to begin with, and then it's certainly less clear if it will continue. So we do have a little bit of trend in the treasury as to the downside. Ford is moving, man. It's a sleepy, sleepy day. I hope I'm not putting you to sleep here. Me yawn and make you tired. 2.835 again? How is that possible? Oh, must be. No, and the spread didn't really change either. That's a little wide. They're just giving us a wide range, I guess. Being filled at 2834 is probably not too bad. Electronic Arts is reportedly looking at takeover options. Oh, really? Ah, there's the take of 25.5. ECB's Villeroy is speaking A. Having been in a trade, I really shouldn't be feeling as sleepy as I have been, but there's the move. Man, so again, I was like, I look at 8.4 and I'm like, well, I think that I would rather buy it, but I don't like the timing of it and everything else like that. They get up to 2.845 so quickly. It's a little frustrating how sometimes it can just, it'll just slip through, but that's the slow choppy market for you, huh? Oh, sounds like Villeroy sounds like she thinks there's going to be a recession. We will normalize policy, not tighten it. GameStop's crypto and NFT wallet is here. Okay. They still selling this. The sell in the treasury has become a lot more extreme. Strong bid appears. A wild bid just appeared at 24.5. They tick up. Where was it? 24.5? And disappeared. There's still some bids below us, though. Seems like it's saying that's far enough. So once again, just as soon as it starts to seem like it's really running one way, and then it flips. Would you feel comfortable selling 2.843 there? Oh, I don't know. It might still get kind of stuck in this area. But a move back to 283 wouldn't be bad. It seems like really unlikely at the moment, though, doesn't it? Doesn't it? Wake up, Seth. New York just removed its last public payphone booth? Wow. Whoa, what is this? Okay, so they're saying, Vilroy's saying that there are some in the ECB that want a, quote, faster option. So that might have been why we saw that movement there, but they're pushing back against it. The bid looks relatively strong. The amount of buying that we saw here, although it is significant in the 5-year, wasn't enough to change the volume on any of the instruments. Let's reset. That flow does look like it is maybe news related. And we will copy that tweet. So the positioning of this large meta order is a little bit different, right? What you often see is like we're up at the high and then a large bid shows up and it's like it's trying to extend it or something, right? This one, they took some big amounts here, bought it, left a big order behind. So that big order might be more serious. It is kind of a little late in the day, so you do kind of have to wonder what he's thinking. And then we just had, a comment from an ECB speaker that the market seemed to react to a lot. Some members of the ECB want a faster option. I think that is a significant news point. So, but that would tend to push them down, right? More aggressive, more hawkish, sell treasuries. The sell's not really coming through, despite the squabbling. So, okay, well it just went bid. I doubt anybody's going to hit into that with the offer only being 150. Nope, see. Okay, well, it'd be interesting to me if we start to see meaningful volume hit at 24.5 and he absorbs it, which I think may happen. Hmm. Okay, so they did take it. It wasn't 2,500, it was 1,862. And by the way, while the S&P 500 did form a new high, regular session high, it's still pretty bleh. So I think I could still make the case for going long the micros. Especially now that big bid has been taken out. The spread here is consolidating a little bit in the 10-year. Yep, no spread there. One tick there. So that makes me think hit into 847. Nope, missed it. Okay, well, maybe, I don't know. I don't think I should sit and mess with it all day. It does kind of look like, although we might get some continued downtrend and a break of the lower end of the range for the regular session in the 10-year, that it's likely to still be a little choppy and difficult. So probably better that I don't take a trade there. But this has been one of the choppier Mondays we've had in a while, isn't it? Choppy Monday after options expiration. Because typically we would tend to see a move, and we haven't. So, I don't know. Corn's still looking good. Corn was the place to be, man. Bottoming off of 775 or so, and now all the way back up to 785 that quickly. All right, guys, I will see you tomorrow. In the meantime, stay profitable, friends, or at least